Welcome to this dawn session in the West Tent. It's lovely for you all to be here. Just briefly before we start, Irvine's going to read for 15 minutes or so, and then he and I will have a bit of a chat, and then the floor will be open to questions from the audience. My name is Jason Lake. I'm a bookseller and a member of the Writers' Week Advisory Committee. Bursting onto the literary scene in 1993 with Trainspotting, his portrayal of Edinburgh's violent, nihilistic, drug-addicted youth, Irvine made the long list for the book of that year, but sadly didn't make the short list. He apparently upset the sensibilities of a couple of the female judges, and we wonder why. Trainspotting moved from the page to the stage and then to the big screen, raising both his profile and increasing his readership for the number of novels and short stories, screenplays, and plays that followed. Born into the Celtic storytelling tradition of Edinburgh, he left school early, headed for London and immersed himself in the punk scene of the late 70s. There were numerous jobs, there was more study, there was booze, there was drugs, there was writing, and there was always music. And while at Heriot Watt University writing his thesis on equal opportunities for women, he began writing Trainspotting. This was then followed by a collection of short stories, The Acid House, and then a second novel, Marabou Stalk Nightmare, a tale of despair narrated by Roy Strong, a comatose football hooligan. He's never really stopped writing and publishing since, and although his brutal prose is not for the squeamish and his themes quite often focus and deal with the taboos that not normally the stuff of popular fiction, his readership is wide and varied. Ecstasy was the first paperback original to go to number one on the Sunday Times bestseller list, which is quite a feat. And it's rare that an author's work appeals to not only the fashion conscious and the literati, but also to the drug takers and the clubbers and the footballers and, you know, the one book a year readers. So it's my pleasure to welcome Irvine here. Please make him welcome. Irvine Welsh.
Thanks very much. First, excuse me, it's a wee bit early for me. I think this is the earliest reading I've ever done. Thank you to everybody for kind of getting out of their beds and showing up at this time. So I'm going to read a bit from Reheated Cabbage. It's a kind of it's my sort of my latest book, really. It's a collection of short stories, and I'm going to read the first story, which is quite a short story about. It's narrated by this character who he's not the best husband in the world. He's not the best father in the world, but he must be one of the best football supporters in the world. So, as far as it went with me, it was their own fucking fault. The cunts at the hospital basically agreed with me and all. Not that they said that much, but you could tell that they did inside. You ken how it is with cunts, they can't just come out and say what's on their fucking mind like that. Professional fucking etiquette, or whatever the fuck they call it. Well, seeing I'm not a fucking doctor, I'd last about 5 minutes with these cunts, me. I'll give you bedside manner, you fuckers. But it was their own fault. Because you ken that I wanted to stay in for the football this Saturday. They had the Hibs Hearts game live on Setanta. She goes, "Let's take the bairns down to that pub at King's now. That one you can sit outside of." "Can you?" I says to her. "Football's on it too. Hibs fucking Hearts." "We didn't have to stay long, Malky," she says. "It's a rare day. It would be nice for the bairns." So I thinks to myself, maybe not a bad idea, but I mean, I had my bevy in the fridge for the game, but a few scoops beforehand would just set us up nicely for the kick-off. So I says, "Aye, alright then, but we're not staying out long. Mind, the football's on it too. We've got to be back by then." So I'm thinking, let her get her own way, just to keep her fucking trap shut for a bit. So we gets out, and it's a rare day and all. We heads along the fucking pub and starts getting a few bevies sunk back. Her on the Smirnoff ices, me on the pints of Stella. The Barons are happy enough with their juice and crisps, even though I had to batter him for pulling her hair when the cheeky wee cunt thought I wasn't looking. He got a right shock alright when I gave him a fucking rap across the jaw. I says, aye, and dinna he fucking well burst out greeting like a wee lassie, Jason, or you'll fucking well get another yin. Anyway, I've got my eye on the clock for the football likes, but she's flinging them back like fuck. And when I tell her it's time to drink up and move, I starts getting fucking grief. Can we no stay for just one more? She's gone. And I'm gone, alright, just a fucking quick here, mine. We've got to fucking Johnny Cash. So I flung back my pint, but she's fucking well struggling. That's her all over, eh? Thinks she can take a fucking peeve, but she can't handle it when it comes to the big time. I just tells her, come on, we need to fucking nash. So I nod to the bairns, and they're coming down the road with me. And she's lagging behind, the fucking fat cow that she is. That was the main reason it was her fault. Too fucking well fat. The doctor said it. He fucking well told the cunt. Fuck knows how many times. So I'm shouting, come on! Of course, all she can do is give that fucking look which gets on my fucking goat. Get moving and dinna fucking well put that face on, I tells the cunt. So we gets into Kingsnow station and I goes, we can cut through here. She turns round and starts walking down the platform to the overhead bridge. I goes, come on to fuck you, Raj, and jumps straight down onto the tracks, ken? She starts making an exhibition of herself, going on about the train's coming, and you should be able to see that because of the people on the platform. Aye, but you're forgetting something, I goes. I used to work for the railways. This was before me and wee Tam Devlin got the boot, the bevy, ken? The cunts get as stroppy as fuck about that. Even a couple of pints, that's you fucking well snookered. I wasn't the worst, but it was scapegoating as a cunt for the union put it. Not that it did us much good, but eh. But it's coming, she says. They're all waiting on it. I deeks the fucking clock at the station and goes, it's not due for another 5 minutes yet. Monty fuck. I takes wee Claire and I lifts her down onto the track. And she finally waddles off the fucking platform down onto the track. Fucking embarrassment, that fat cunt. So I've got wee Claire on the platform. Then I hears this tinny noise and the track under my feet starts to vibrate. It sounds like one of the intercity non-stopping jobs. I just fucking tipples. The cunts have been diverted because of the flood damage on the other line. I minded reading about that shite in the news. So I'm up sharpish and I'm saying to this fat cunt, "Give your fucking hand." Well, I grabs her mitt, but the fucking speed on this intercity job, I mean, these cunts seem like they're going to rip the whole fucking station apart, the speed they go through it at. And with her being that fucking hefty, well, I sort of half managed to get her up on the platform, and she's screaming about the Barons, and I'm saying, the Barons are alright, fucking move. But the train comes along, and it fucking well hits her, and I just feel this force pulling her, wrenching her right out my fucking grip. Well, I've just about fucking well shot myself, can tell you, fucking telling yous. I'm expecting her to be in Aberdeen or somewhere like that, Ken. But she's only a few feet away from us, further down the platform, and she's looking up at us and shouting, you stupid fucking cunt! At me, in front of every cunt in the fucking station. So I'm telling her to shut her fucking mouth or she'll get my fucking boot right in it. To get up off her fucking fat arse and get a fucking bend on. And wee Claire's laughing, and I looks at Jason, and he's just standing there, frozen to the fucking spot, eh? So I'm about to fucking slap the wee cunt when I look down at her, and I realise she's got no fucking legs. It's like the train had just come and whipped them clean off. And she's coming towards us, crawling along the fucking platform, pulling herself with a big flabby arms, and there's this trail of blood coming for her. The raddest thing about it is I looks down the platform and I sees the fucking legs just sort of severed for her body at the thigh lengths, the both of them. So I shouts at that wee cunt, Jason, didn't he just fucking well stand there? Pick up your ma's legs. Get ahead of them. I was thinking, you could get them to the hospital and get them stitched back on. The wee bastard just starts greeting, right out of fucking control. Some cunt shouting to get an ambulance, and she's lying on the ground cursing, and I'm thinking about the fucking football kick-off in 10 minutes' time. But I get thinking that the ambulance will most likely have to go past our place on the way to the hospital, and I can bail out and catch up with over there after the game, you know? So I starts going, too right, mate, fucking ambulance, eh? Wee Claire's went over to her ma's legs, and she's picked them up and gathered them up in her wee arms, and she's running towards us. And I lets that sneaky wee cunt Jason have it across the chops. He fucking well felt that, yin. I says to him, you should have got their legs, you daft wee cunt, leaving it up to your sister. She's only a bairn. How old are you? 9. Fucking well act it. This old cunt's doing it her side, hudding her hand and saying, you're alright, it'll be fine, the ambulance is on its way. Try to be still, and all that shite. Another guy says to me, my God, this is terrible. I goes, fucking sure it is. Probably missed the first 2 goals, eh? And then this Nondy cunt comes up and goes, I know you must be under terrible stress, but it'll be okay. She's hanging in there. Try to comfort the children. I just goes, aye, right you are. So I says to the bairns, just as the ambulance comes, your ma's got in the hospital for a bit, but there's no wrong with her. She's lost her legs, wee Claire goes. I ken that, aye, but there's no wrong with her. No, really. I mean, for anybody else, like anybody normal, like you or me, it would be bad to have no legs. But no for your ma, because she's that fat, she wouldn't be able to get around on her legs that much longer anyway, ken? But will ma die? Jason asks. I didn't care, I'm not a fucking doctor, am I? Didn't ask such daft questions, Jason. What a laddie for fucking questions. See if she does, and I'm not saying that she will, but see if she does, just saying, right? Just supposing that she was to die, and this is just saying, mind. Like pretend, wee Claire goes. Mere brains than her fucking ma, that yin. That's right, hen, just pretend. So if she was to die, mind, and we're only just saying, it's up to you to be good, and not to give us a hard time. I'm not saying that I'm wrong, I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm just saying that didn't be giving us a hard time at a time like this, or you get this, right? I goes, clenching my mitt, shaking it at the wee cunts. So by the time the ambulance boys managed to lug her onto that fucking van with her fucking weight, it's got to be half time. I takes the legs off the bairn and goes to lob them in the back with her, but the ambulance boy takes them and wraps them in polythene and sticks them stumped down into these buckets of ice. We gets in the back with her, and the boy that's driving's wasting no time. As we get near her, but I goes, I'll just bail out of the roundabout ahead, mate, eh? Eh? The boy goes, just let us off here, I says. We're not stopping here, mate. We're not stopping till we get to the hospital. There's no time to lose. You need to register your wife and look after the kids here. Aye, right. I goes, but I'm still thinking ahead. Is there a telly in the wards there, mate, in the hospital? Bound to be, eh? The cunt just looks at us all funny, and then he goes, aye, there's a telly. Fucking wide cunt. Anyway, she's got the oxygen mask over her face, and the guy's going on it to her about trying not to talk, and I'm thinking, some fucking chance, I've been trying not to get her to talk for years, eh? Fucking good that's done. And hearing her and all, going on to me like it's my fucking fault. It was her wanting more fucking drink as usual, the pished up cow. I tell her, if you spent as much time looking after these fucking bairns as you did on the fucking pish, then they might not be so far behind at school, especially that wee cunt Jason. I turns to him and I goes, aye, and didn't think you're going to doss off at the school, Jason, just 'cause your fucking ma might be in dock for a few weeks. You better fucking well shape up, son, telling you. Sometimes I think to myself that I'm giving that wee cunt too much of a hard time. But then I go, nah, Because I got it. The very same treatment from my old man. Did me nae harm at all. Cruelty be kind, like they say. And I'm living proof that it's the best way. I mean, you never see me in any bother now with the police. Learned my lesson. I keep my nose clean and give the cunts a wide berth. All I ask out of life is a few bevies, the football, and the occasional ride. Makes us think, but what's it going to be like riding her if she's not got any fucking legs? So we gets up the casualty, and this doctor cunt's gone on about me being in shock. And I'm thinking about the football, and if these cunts have scored already, I'll be in fucking shock, alright. So I turns to the boy, and I goes, "Hi mate, ken me and her? Ken like when we're together?" Cunt wasn't getting my drift. "Ken, in bed likes?" The cunt nods. "See if she's not got any fucking legs. Will I still be able to cope it likes?" "Sorry?" This cunt goes, "Thick as fuck. A fucking doctor and all. Thought you had to have fucking brains to do that job." "I'm talking about her sex life," I tell him. "Well, assuming your wife survives, your sex life should be normal," the cunt says, looking at us like I was some kind of fucking Raj. "Well," I goes, "that's a bit of fucking good news, because it wasn't fucking normal before. No, unless you call a ride every 3 fucking months or something like that normal. And that's not what I'd call fucking well normal." So there I was, trying to watch the fucking game on the waiting room telly. Nae bevy or now, and all they Raji's hassling us with forums and questions, and the bairns playing up, going on about, "Is she alright, and when are we going home," and all that shite. I fucking well warned the wee cunts. "See when I get yous home," I tell them. I'll tell you one thing for now though. When she's out of that hospital, see if she can't do things around the house. I'm fucking offski. Too fucking right, you cunt. Looking after some fat cunt with no legs. That'll be fucking shining bright. And it was her own fault as well, the fat cunt. Fucking things up for me like that. Not that the game was anything to write home about, eh? Another fucking 0-0 draw. Thanks very much for listening. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Great way to kick off the session. If we could just talk a bit about the process you adhere to as a writer. With Trainspotting, your first novel, was it a conscious decision to write in the Scots dialect? Or was it just a natural progression from, you were born into that storytelling tradition and everybody had a tale to tell around the table?
No, I mean, originally when the first draft I did it in, well, about the first half of the first draft, I'd kind of written it in standard English, and it just didn't work. I mean, it just seemed a pretentious exercise. I mean, the characters didn't speak like that or think like that or kind of vibe like that, so it just didn't work. It was just flat and sort of, it just wasn't real. So I tried to find a sort of a language that, or a way of writing a language that would kind of respond more to the kind of to the way people actually kind of spoke and interacted with each other. And because it's like, I mean, English is a fantastic language, but it's very much a kind of it's very much an old imperial language. It's a weights and measures kind of language. It's a language of administrators and all that, Whereas the language that I wanted to bring out was a much more kind of performative thing, a much more oral storytelling sort of thing. And when you go into a pub in Leith and you listen to guys talk, they very much perform. It's all the kind of this and that, and So I wanted to get something that kind of approximated that, and I wanted to kind of try and When I first did the first draft of it, it was strange to me because, like everybody else, I'm not used to seeing words on a page like that. And I thought, oh God, nobody's going to read this, But I'll just do it anyway because it makes more sense to me to have it like that.
And do you think that did sales increase of the book once the film was out and people heard these characters speak in that dialect, and then did that make the book more accessible to them, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it kind of... it's funny because it didn't really... the first year it came out, it didn't really sell very well, and they had another collection of stories out by then called The Acid House, which actually sold more than Trainspotting, and then it got made into a play, and it toured around, and I think that really sort of pushed the sales up. And then obviously, kind of about 3 years later, when the film came out, it kind of took it on to another level again. But it was very much a kind of slow burner. It was a sort of word-of-mouth book at first. You know, it kind of went around and kind of, you know, it kind of picked up, and it's kind of still... It actually still sells quite well now, which is kind of quite nice. It's like a wee pension plan, you know. You get a 6 month.